in the same place she stood. Martin Luther King. Back in a minute. You know, I first told that story on my radio show, gosh, I bet 5, 6 years ago. Most people don't know about Marian Anderson. It's an amazing story. And it's amazing to see her because it is in 1962 that Martin Luther King comes and stands in the same place. I'm getting a lot of heat because on Saturday, a week from Saturday, August 28th, which is the anniversary of the Martin Luther King I Have a Dream speech, I am not standing in that same place, but I am standing several stairs down from where those two civil rights legends stood. And I'm asking people to join me and learn the history of America and learn again about the content of character. It has nothing to do with any politician or anything. It has everything to do with, you know what it is? It's the anti-Woodstock. That's what it is. Do you remember how Woodstock just, it just stopped people and put them in that place. Those people that went to Woodstock, they're still going to, you ask anybody who said, oh, I was going to go to Woodstock, but I couldn't at the very end, or I didn't, I missed it. They're still pining about it. The people who went, that was the moment for them. This is the opposite of that. This is about honor and God, and hopefully it will be a moment. Leave your signs at home. Come with your children. And come as you are and leave stronger, hopefully. This will be a moment that they will remember for the rest of their lives. And I promise you, if you're not there, you will say, or your children will say, for the rest of their life, I was going to go, we decided not to at the last minute. I'm getting a lot of heat because, and quite honestly, when I first stood on those stairs, after I had announced that we were doing this, I stood on those stairs to the Lincoln Memorial. I went down to Washington, D.C., and I thought to myself, who do you think you are? I know who I am. I'm a dad. I'm an American citizen, and I'm just trying to do the right thing the best way I know how. I think we have to stand up. I think we have to be better than we are now. Who do I think I am even doing this civil rights special for the last 3 nights? I'm just doing the best I can with the time that I have. I don't want you to misinterpret this series here as the end-all and be-all on civil rights, and in any way diminishing the incredible accomplishments of Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks and all the other courageous and brave people that went through the civil rights movement. You'll notice I'm not talking about those people because you know about them. What I'm trying to do is add on to what you already know about the civil rights movement in American history, and I'm also trying to show you that there's something here. There's commerce, religion, government, and science. You got to look for patterns in American history. You got to look for patterns because they repeat. It's why people read the Bible, and I mean, you read the Bible. Can you imagine if the 400 years that white man was over here on this continent, if you condensed it into, a Bible chapter, we'd look just like those people. You'd walk away going, how did those people not get it? How did they not see it? Because we're living it. And it's over a long period of time, and so you lose the pattern. When there's collusion between commerce, religion, government, and science, it's bad. When they are set against each other or put each other in check, then you have man's freedom. The last segment, you saw some obvious discrimination from our government, and even those in the government, on the left. And I get it. There were racists on the right. There were racist in every walk of life, but there are also heroes on both sides. You got to question with boldness. I just showed you how Woodrow Wilson had resegregated the government. Well, what does resegregation mean? It means that they had already disintegrated that. There was no segregation. He resegregated. After nearly half a century, we resegregated. Well, what happened? How did that happen? Why? And then what happened leading up to the Civil Rights Act? The Civil Rights Act, you got to start, for that act, you have to start with Dwight D. Eisenhower, a Republican. In 1953, he appointed this guy. This is Judge Earl Warren. He was the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. It was the Warren Court that Barack Obama likes to quote, appointed by a Republican, that ruled unanimously that segregated schools were unconstitutional. Well, this is the guy. He was appointed by Eisenhower. He was also the first president to appoint an African American to an executive level position in the White House. Frederick Morrow. He was the administrative officer for special projects. That guy right there. It was Eisenhower who was the first president since Reconstruction to meet in the White House with black civil rights leaders. You got to be kidding me. Democrat Adlai Stevenson. Well, he wanted to change things. Here's Eisenhower. And here's the challenger, the Democratic challenger, Stevenson. He tried to accuse, again, of Eisenhower misleading the public, arguing that it was the Democrats that started desegregation in the armed forces, but they remember where desegregation started again, the progressives. But Eisenhower shot back. Remember, he was a general in World War II. He said, I was, quoting, I was the first combat commander that ever used Negroes incorporated actually into white units on the battlefield, end quote. Yeah, do you know any of this? Is it just me that missed this in school? The Civil Rights Act. Lyndon B. Johnson, the guy who gets credit for the passage. But it was actually Eisenhower. It was Eisenhower who in 1957 pushed to get the first civil rights bill passed. But 1964. That's when the civil rights bill finally passed. It actually had some teeth in it, could get the job done. Well, what happened in 1957? Well, what happened there? Well, what happened there is Congress. There was a senator who was the majority leader in Congress, and he wouldn't allow it to pass. He said Part 3 of this had to be taken out. Well, Eisenhower said, no. Part 3 is the most important part. What was Part 3? It was designed to give the Attorney General authority to file suits to protect all constitutional rights, including school desegregation. In other words, the real problem, the teeth were taken out of that bill. It was nothing without it. That's why it wasn't until 7 years and multiple attempts later, after Martin Luther King and everything else, that a real civil rights bill was passed. So who was the Senate Majority Leader at the time that watered down the Civil Rights Bill, demanded that that was taken out? Anybody know? The guy who gets the credit. The hero of the left was the villain in 57 and the hero in 64. Interesting. Why don't we know that? About the Civil Rights March with Martin Luther King and here at the Lincoln Memorial. And I think I said it was 1962. And I'm looking at this wall in the break, and I look up and I see it's actually 1963. This is why I was not really good at history, because it was always about dates. And I think the date is not what the important thing. I corrected here. It's 1963, not 1962. This is what is important. This and this. Let's go here. School race riot grips Little Rock. Why did that happen? Well, we have to look for patterns. We have to look for patterns, science, government, and religion so we can learn from the past. And religion is really kind of strange because it seems to flip from one side to another. There's always a period of awakening and enlightenment. And then there's another part where it just kind of colludes. The last couple of nights, we've gone from 1641 to FDR. Now we're treading into areas where it's not so clear, and tensions will start because everybody has a political reason or racial reason or a religious reason to make somebody else the bad guy. But you know what? There are bad guys on all sides, in all parties. There's good guys on all sides, in all parties. White, black, yellow, it doesn't matter. We just showed you that Eisenhower wrote what he wrote. Wrote the Civil Rights Bill. The guy who got credit for passing it is the guy who actually stopped it when the Republican wanted to do it. It's crazy. Nothing's changed. Nothing's changed. You reduce their power. You reduce their power. And we can fix ourselves. We've got to stop being pitted against each other. We've shown you that it was the GOP that took the lead on the civil rights. It was the Democrats that stood in the way. That's just a fact. Anyone who says that that's not true, look it up for yourself. That doesn't make any statement on today. Let's just get the past right, can we? Anybody who says that whites don't have a right to speak because it wasn't part of the fight, excuse me? Tell me about the Underground Railroad. Tell me about it. Tell me about Ohio that you learned last night. Tell me about, I'm sorry, is he black? Is he black? Are these two black? Are they both Republicans or both Democrats? No. You're part of the fight. Anybody tells you differently, they're wrong. Eisenhower was right. There's another guy, Rabbi William Silverman. He was white. I'm going to tell you a story here in a minute, but I want to give you a little background of the 1950s, 1957, 1958. The country was in deep recession. Unemployment among blacks was 14.4 and whites was 6.9. Not good. The economy was shrinking. Segregation was still a reality. And on September 12th, the Supreme Court decided unanimously to overturn the district court decision allowing Little Rock, the school board, to postpone school segregation. They wanted to postpone it until 1960 because of the threat of continued violence. That was a decision by Earl Warren, who was appointed by this guy, appointed by President Eisenhower. After the Supreme Court's Brown decision that separate school for blacks and whites were unconstitutional, well, then the country started going just a hell in a handbasket because people, it was a mess. Nashville was undergoing court-ordered school desegregation. Racial tensions were high. Unemployment, again, it's government, it's religion, it's commerce. Well, one night, 1958, a bomb goes off at the entrance of the JCC, the Jewish Community Building. 20 minutes after the explosion, a bomber called Rabbi Silverman. He's at the Vine Street Temple. He was called. And he picks up the phone. It's the rabbi. And the voice on the other end threatens to blow up the synagogue and other places that were sympathetic to the cause of African Americans. Well, Silverman had been a vocal supporter of integration, and some local Jews blamed him for his outspokenness. Well, you're just causing all this trouble. What? Now, I want you to know, Silverman was into social justice. Social justice. I don't agree with social justice. I think social justice is a nightmare. But you know what? Not everybody that believes in social justice is bad. Not everybody that is white is bad. Not everybody who is black is bad. Not everybody. That's just the way it is. We're people. You have to look just like the country. Let's look at the overall picture. What he did was incredible. He was unbound by the threats. Rabbi Silverman defended integration in his sermon to his congregants right after that. He remained an outspoken civil rights activist. He continued receiving vicious death threats. One of the threats, they called him up and said, quote, "We know your oldest son goes to Hillsborough High School. He gets out at 2:30. We know the bus he takes and the route home. Your youngest son goes to Palmer School. He gets out at 3 o'clock. Keep the kids at home, Jew rabbi.